Alright, we've arrived at Battle Creek. It's April 30th. There's going to be a MSPT main event satellite today, and I plan to play that. I just made the drive from Battle Creek, or I'm sorry, from Burlington, Wisconsin to Battle Creek, and I've just arrived in the parking lot. I'm going to try something a little different today. Normally in a satellite, I have a tendency to try to keep a low profile, but today I'm gonna try and do something that I normally don't do. I'll do something like show a bluff, which I never show cards anyway, but today is going to be a little different. I'm thinking that getting inside of people's heads is important in a satellite because of the pressure, because of the stress of the ICM pressure. So it's about 3:15 or so Eastern time. The tournament starts in 3 hours. I got here in plenty of time to take a break and relax after the trip and unwind, and also to get in line, because last time I was here I waited in line. It seemed like forever. Now, one of the observations that I made right as I was approaching the casino after I got off the interstate was I got cut off by some kind of a crazy driver. Now, I've observed that around casinos, whether you're in the parking garage or in the roads nearby. People have to get there quick. I mean, people who normally would drive conservatively, like elderly and such, sometimes, not all the time, but sometimes drive like maniacs. And my theory about that is because they can't wait to get in and gamble. It's as if they could smell food and they know that salvation is just a few hundred yards away in that parking lot and in that casino. So it happened today, it happens a lot, and it's just one of the observations I've made. I'm probably not going to get home again until like 1:30, 2:30 in the morning. So tomorrow's going to be kind of a tired day, but that's okay, because with any luck, I'll be going home with a ticket to a main event seat into the MSPT, which is in 2 weeks. Well, here it is, dinner at Battle Creek Casino, Firekeeper. The double cheeseburger basket with Diet Pepsi, like a substance that I'm addicted to. Yes. They don't have enough food things here at the casino. The buffet's not open anymore. And so this place here, the cafe, has a long line. The Sportsbook Bar and Grill has a 45-minute waiting list. There's a gourmet restaurant. I think that the buffet should be open. I think that the sign in front of the buffet says that for the sake of social distancing, it's closed. It's gotten a little ridiculous, in my humble, or not, maybe not so humble opinion. COVID's been around for over 2 years. The vaccines have been available for a year. Everyone has a chance to get them. They're free. Americans have all made their choice about these vaccines. If you got the vaccine, you're safe in crowded areas. If you don't have the vaccine, you're the one responsible for your own health. If you catch COVID without a vaccine, you get really sick. So I think it's, I don't know, how else can I put it? Stupid to keep things like buffets closed and using that as an excuse, especially when they don't have enough food offerings. So, yeah, I've said my piece, and now it's time to consume this food off. Well, that burger wasn't too bad. Polished it off. It'll definitely do the trick. It'll hold me for the evening. The fries were pretty good. They have like spicy stuff in them. And yeah, you know, for almost like a fast food joint here, they do all right. 2 weeks ago when I was here, I had the pizza, and I wasn't too optimistic. I mean, it's hard to screw up pizza, but they only had 2 offerings, cheese and then a pepperoni pizza. So 2 weeks ago I had the pepperoni pizza, thinking it was going to be like a frozen pizza, and it was actually pretty good. The crust was nice and soft, and it tasted all right. So yeah, they're doing pretty good for what they've got available for themselves here at this what they call the food court, which is more like just a fast food type thing. It's not a bad option, but man, you shouldn't have to wait in line forever at 4:30 in the afternoon. They don't have enough food offerings in this casino, and I think the buffet being open would settle that whole problem. Just my humble, maybe not so humble opinion. So now, I've got about an hour or so to wait before I'm going to proceed to the poker room. And then we'll see how it goes from there. Well, tonight didn't go quite as planned. I had to buy back in once. Had a couple of bad hands that I'll review using Range Trainer Pro. But overall, I just could never get any traction. On my last hand of the night, I had 12,000 with the blinds at 1,000, 1,500, 1,500. Folded around to me in the button. I had Queen Jack offsuit, jammed the 8 big blinds, got snapped by the big blind. He had 10s, his 10s held, and we were on our way home. One bad hand that I had last night that I'm going to analyze with GTO Plus is the following hand right here. With the blinds at 200, 400, 400, we have 25,000 big blinds. Villain has 18,200. We pick up ace-9 of diamonds in early position, and the villain calls. Now, the villain calls, I had already put villain on a calling station profile beyond just loose passive. I put him on a calling station profile. So in GTO Plus, I set up my ranges, as you can see here on the screen. This is my early position opening range with this stacks depth. And then I put villain on a very loose calling range in middle position. You'll note that at the top left cap here, I have hardly anything in his 3-bet range. I'm even putting ace jack suited and king queen suited and ace queen offsuit in his calling range there, and not 3-betting, and also king queen offsuit, possibly even queens. I have queens at 100% here. I would say 50% though that he would have called instead of 3-betting with queens. I hadn't seen him 3-bet one single time in the session. So we have that, and out of the flop came the 9 of spades, the 9 of clubs, and the 8 of diamonds, giving us top trips with top kicker and a back door to the nut flush draw. So we bet 1,700 into that pot. The villain called, of course, because that's what he does. On the turn, we bet 3,000. The turn was a 7, an offsuit 7. So we bet again. I mean, Jack 10 could have gotten there and is beating our trips, but this guy had so many hands in his range that I felt like he could have had any 10. He could have ace 10, king 10, queen 10. He could have had all these things, possibly even all of them unsuited. So I put him on more draws than actually having made the straight. So that's why I bet. I felt like I still had the best hand a vast majority of the time here. I did think about the possibility of pocket 8s, but I also thought about the possibility that he had a 9, the case 9, and with a worse kicker, we had him totally dominated. So I felt that I was way ahead at this point. I make another bet on the turn of 3,000. Villain calls, of course. So then on the river, I thought, okay, I'm going to check raise this guy for value. I think that if I give up on the river, he's going to try and take a stab at it, or he might have value, but he'll more than likely take a stab at it, or maybe even overestimate the strength of his hand and make what he thinks is a value bet, and then I'll check raise him and value own him. So I check raised him. He snap called, and he had the pocket 8s. He showed me the bad news. So I got value owned on this deal. But I made the plan, I stuck with it, and so now I'm going to analyze it in GTO Plus. You can see from just a GTO standpoint here, before any reads, any lock and edit decisions are made, any node locking is done, that my 100% dominant strategy is to check, even with my top trips, top kicker on this flop. That's kind of interesting. I would have thought on a
paired flop like that, with this holding, I have the very top of my range that I could make a small C bet and hope that he's got some kind of overpair like tens, jacks, maybe even queens, like I said earlier. But also he could have an eight. He could even have the case nine with a lower kicker. All these things are working in my favor, but the solver wants me to check 100% of the time. But I made the smallish bet on the turn or on the flop, and then here is Villain's strategy right here. He had pocket eights, and his strategy, if I had bet, was to just simply call, which is what he did. So he made the right play there. And then on the turn came the seven of hearts, and then if we go with purely game theory optimal strategy, my strategy with my ace nine of diamonds, as you can see here, was to check 100% of the time. But I didn't. I bet, and this time I made a larger bet. I'm going to go ahead and put the larger bet down. And then the game theory optimal strategy for him with his pocket eights, it doesn't even show. It's because it shouldn't have got this far by this point. And I solved this down to 0.5% resolution. So there really was no game theory optimal strategy for the way this got played. So on this on this river, I checked. He made a sizable bet with his eights, which he doesn't even have at this point, but I'm going to do it anyway. And my strategy is never to go all in. My strategy was to call. But then again, I'm not this far in this hand either. It's not in range anymore, as you can see here. So this hand did not get played according to game theory optimal strategy. So now I'm going to node lock what I think that this guy was doing, and the way I exploit it. We'll see if I exploited it right. But first, let's just see what happens if we both follow game theory optimal strategy. So let's just say that I check with my ace nine suited. What does he do with pocket eights? Some of the times he should be betting, he should be checking about half the time and making a small bet about half the time, and a bigger bet just a sliver of time. So his correct strategy was halfway between betting and checking. Let's just say because he's got that full house, he's checking because that's the way he did it in real life. And when I bet, he called. So let's just say he checks back just because he's got the board so locked up. Now it's my turn with the seven of hearts on the turn. I've got ace nine suited of diamonds, and I don't really have a dominant strategy here at all. I could check, I could bet small, I could bet larger. The preference here is by a hair, less than half, but the biggest one is to check. So let's just say that I went and checked again. Now what does he do with his eights? Now he's going to make a bet that's not an over bet, but it's a good percentage of the pot. So let's go ahead and have him do that. 1440. So with my ace nine, I could either raise a big raise some of the time, but most of the time I'm going to call. So let's just say that I call, which is what the solver says you should do almost 2/3 of the time. Let's just call. So now on the river comes the four of hearts. So now what does a game theory optimal strategy say I should do with my ace and nine of diamonds? Check. So let's just say I check. And then what should he do? He should bet, but not an overbet. He should bet to try and get a call. So let's just say he bets 4,000. And what do I do with my ace and nine of diamonds? It wants me to go all in. And of course he's going to call with his full house. And of course he calls. So uh, if this had been played totally according to Hoyle, I'm losing a big pot. I'm doubling him up, no matter what. Um, but because of my reads on his way of playing, let's see how it goes. So now what I've done is I've node locked his decision making so that he's calling a lot more than what the GTO solver suggested he should call. And look at the difference that it made. Now instead of checking with my ace nine of diamonds, now I'm making a small bet with my ace nine of diamonds 100% of the time. In fact, I'm making a small bet with my entire range 100% of the time. That's very interesting. So the decision's on him, and we know that he called because he's locked into that. He called with this ace, with his eights. He should have made a 3-bet with his nines. He didn't do that. Out on the turn comes the 7 of hearts. We bet 2,400 out of our 3 choices. And we have him locked into making the call again with his 8-8. So he made the call. And now what's our decision on the river? We don't even have a decision on the river. The solver didn't solve for it. As a matter of fact, if we back up a little bit, the solver on the turn says that we're betting, or we're checking 100% of the time, which we did not do. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to node lock this. And the reason I node lock this for betting the 2,400 with my entire range is because that's what he saw me do. So on the river, after I checked, I gave him credit for knowing enough to know that he needs to check back middle pair, weak pair, and ace high, and that he's only going to bluff with no made hand, and then also he's going to bet for value with his bigger hands, and he's going to determine that an overpair is a bigger hand than he needs to bet for value. I don't know if he was going to bet middle pair for value or not. I'm just going to give him credit for knowing enough to check back and hope that he wins. So now I'm going to run the solver again with all these node locks. Okay, the solver just did its work, and let's run through and see. So, yep, it still has me making the small bet on the flop. And then he calls. He had eights and he called like he should have. So, yep, there's the 7 of hearts on the turn. We bet with this 100% of the time. He should call half the time and re-raise us half the time. He called. We checked. It doesn't even show ace 9 suited in our range anymore. He bet 4,800. We checked. He bet 4,800. And it did have ace 9 suited in our range. I was misinterpreting that, and I should call. So basically, what I should not have done was check raised. He stayed in the hand with something good, and I should have just called for and treated it like a middling hand, I guess. So lesson learned. I do have that tendency to value own myself too much, and part of it is the fact that I'm doing something good in poker, but I'm overdoing it, and doing a good thing too much is just as bad as doing a bad thing. What am I overdoing? Plans. I have gotten pretty fast at making my plan, and what I don't do is take time. I've made my plan, I've decided what I'm going to do, and I go with it. Plan the work, work the plan. Well, poker isn't that simple. You should, when things come up that don't go according to plan, you need to rethink. You need to reevaluate, is what the term they sometimes use. So that's what I need to learn to do better so I don't value own myself. I'm wasting chips, value owning myself too much because I stick with my plan, I play fast, and I need to take my time. So I need to come up with some kind of some kind of mental game thing, some kind of mindset thing, so that I don't do that. And I might have come up with one. I might have come up with a mantra, and that mantra is Gumby. when I was in the Air Force, I took an NCO leadership school course, and this was in Okinawa. We had a typhoon headed our way, and so we needed to be flexible in whether we were or not we were going to attend class. So don't go off the island somewhere or anything like that. Be ready to come to class, but be ready to shelter. So he said, you have to be flexible. So think Gumby. So that's what I'm going to try to practice doing for myself from now on when I play. I'm going to say the word Gumby every now and then, just so that I don't plan the work and work the plan too fast and waste chips by not being flexible enough. On this next hand, it's getting toward the end of the tournament for us. We are at 25,500 with the blinds at 400, 800, 800. An active under the gun player opens at 1,600. We look down at ace queen off, and we three bet him to 4,000 in the low jack, and he called. On the flop came the king of diamonds, the queen of diamonds, and an offsuit 4. He checked. We bet 6,000, and he check raised, jammed us all in, and then we had to fold, or at least we thought we had to fold. So let's examine this with Range Trainer Pro. First of all, pre-flop. I think our pre-flop action was correct. We had ace queen off. We're facing an open raise from the early position. We've got ace queen off. It says that we should 3-bet 55% of the time, or call 55%, 3-bet 45%, and that's what we did. So it's even Steven, and we did not make a bad 3-bet there. He called. So off to the flop we go. And the flop came suited king queen with a low card. And I put the 7, but it doesn't matter. It was a inconsequential card. It was offsuit, no straights going on here. It doesn't matter if it's a 7 or a 4. So I went ahead and he checked 100% of the time. He's supposed to do that, and he did that. So I'm going to hit check. And then with ace queen off, we're supposed to bet light almost all the time. And that's what we did. The pot was already at about, let's see, 800 plus 800 plus 400 is 2,000, 1,600, 4,000, 10, 8,000. The pot's at 10,000, and we opened for 1,600. That's a small bet, which is what we did on Range Trainer Pro. It's a 25% pot. So we opened, or we see bet for 25% pot in this 3-bet pot. So I'm going to press that. And then what does he do? He goes ahead and makes a big raise. It doesn't have a jam here, but it has a big raise. And with ace queen offsuit, we're looking at 35% fold, 65% call. But again, he jammed. This was a satellite. He jammed for more than 75% pot. He put me all in. So I think that fold most of the time was my correct play with my second pair top kicker. So that's what I did. So I think I made a good play here. It was a GTO play. It was a good satellite play. It was just unfortunate because it took a fair number of my chips, and I lost a 3-bet pot where I made a small C bet.